Class is in session. Class is in session. Class is in session. Ask me a question, it gets massive in seconds. I'm on task with the message. We gon' talk about the past and the present. Hey, ask me a question, yeah, these facts be the weapons. Ask me a question, yeah. Class is in session. Class is in session. Class is in session. Ask me a question, yeah. Class is in session. Class is in session. Class is in session. Ask me a question, yeah.
Greetings, class in session. It's your favorite host. It's the Urban Scholar for another episode of your favorite podcast. Today's topic is going to be a pretty emotional topic for me. And the topic is mentoring. And the reason why I chose this topic is because growing up, I didn't really have a mentor. And that's what compelled me to go into the help business of working in programs, working with youth, at-risk youth. They refer to them as at-risk youth, right? And I've worked with adults and adolescents and youth for many years, since 1994, and I was a young lad. So I'm gonna talk first about my story and how I grew up. And we're gonna talk about today's youth and what their needs and demands are. So growing up, there was a big age gap between my father and myself. And my father was old school, old fashioned, old school. So there was no real, well, we didn't communicate. There was no talking other than him telling me what to do or whatever the case may be. There was no I love yous, no how was your day, son, none of that kind of stuff. We coexisted. So let's fast forward, right? When I grew up, I started questioning that type of upbringing. And I remember my mom telling me when I was 18, when I started asking questions, because I just wanted to learn. I wanted to know who they were. I wanted to know more about why things were the way they were. And it wasn't that I wasn't happy. I just had questions, right, about things that I started to internalize as a youth and didn't necessarily agree with. And my mom she wasn't too happy about that. And she told me basically to kick rocks, as today's generation would say. But she told me, she said it in some other words. So I think we know what that was, right? But I'm gonna tell you, that was a changing point in my life. When my mother told me to go, we'll just say fly a kite, it resonated something in me. And I went on this quest. I started reading, I started going to the library, learning history. I just went on this quest. And I wanted to know who I was and why I was the way I was. And not saying it was bad, but I just wanted to know more. And I just went on this journey and started learning. So, rewinding, how many youth today think like that at 18? To start to reflect on their own life and trying to figure out how to fix what they don't like about themselves. Not many do that. And I'm saying that from an expert point of view because I've been in this field for years. And most of these children have been influenced by their family members, wherever they grew up at, whether it be their parents, their aunts, their grandmothers, whatever the case may be. Because as generations go forward, the dynamics are changing on who's raising children. A lot of them have been in foster care. And it's not to say that back then when I was growing up, it wasn't. There were people in foster care back then too. But now the capacity, the amount of people is skyrocketed to the point. So that's the indication that the family has been disrupted, right? And that the family dysfunction has elevated to a point where families are no longer able to manage and grow and be healthy in certain environments. Let's be clear, right? So this is not an overall assessment of society. We're talking in urban areas where there tends to be cities, right? We talk about cities like where I'm from. There's a small city. We're next to New York. We're surrounded by Newark, Camden, Trenton. Then you have New York and its boroughs, right? Then you got Philadelphia, right? Then you have, as you move on, you have Baltimore down there in Maryland. You got DC, Baltimore mixing in, right? And then, but when you think about all these cities, right? Atlanta, right? It's broken up in all these zones. Then you have Chicago, block this, that block, right? Then you get to Cali, you have all these different blocks, right? And you talk about all these different places. Why am I bringing this up? Because outside of all of those city areas, it's majority suburbs. It's houses. It's comprised of houses, right? So if you don't start as a young person looking at the construct, the geographical construct of this country, of your community where you're from, and start asking questions, then you're going to just go with whatever you're being influenced with. So for me, I've never been a person to be influenced, hence why I never joined the gang. And everybody around me was doing gang-like stuff, you know, and partaking in certain things. And so was I. I just wouldn't join, right? So what is the point here? The point is, in those communities, in those cities where these youth are growing up at, they're not going to survive if they're not taught how to think. How can you be taught how to think if you grow up in such a dysfunctional environment where your family's already broken up and split apart? And the only thing you see is violence. We live in a very violent culture, and it's not just in urban areas, it's period. When you start thinking about states like Texas and all these other places where they carry, the violence is crazy overall. Right? The movies we watch are violent. Like this country, you know, is comprised of a lot of violence. It's seen everywhere in the movies and in the community. The news it's inundated in the news. So how can, and then now we have social media where kids are saying things at the speed of light. We didn't have that growing up, right? So there was, to me, there was a better chance because their influence was just your community and your family, and you kind of chose whether you want to listen to your parents or go out there in the streets, right? So that's what a lot of people do. And for me, I chose a little bit of both, but I always made my own decisions about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to be, and never allow anyone to influence that. And I respected everybody else's decisions to do what they did. I just chose a different route and still was living life and doing things the way I wanted to do it. So fast forward, mentoring. I started reading books. I had to look at autobiographies of people. The basic ones in the black community, Malcolm X, you're reading about Martin Luther King, you're reading about Marcus Garvey, you're reading about all these different people, you know, the Black Panther Party. And as I got older, I started reading about J. Paul Getty. People may not know what that is, Getty gas stations, the Wrigley brothers and, you know, the gum people, Fords, the Carnegies, the Rockefeller, you know, I started reading biographies of everybody, presidents and things like that, because I wanted to learn, like their mindset, what went on. And I wanted to be able to compete. I wanted to be able to understand what it took to learn. And one of my biggest influences was a gentleman by the name of Anthony Robbins, who's, to me, is the biggest motivational coach in the world. And he's worked with everybody from kings, queens, to presidents, you name it, big CEO. Like, he's the most sought after. And Les Brown was another one that I watched his videos. I even met him at one point. I saw him speak. And I said, I want to be just like him. Not to mention he was making a lot of money. So I had to find mentoring in a different way, right? And one of the things I learned about was this thing called NLP, and that's what Anthony Robbins introduced me to. It's called Neuro-Linguistic Programming. That became my best friend. And I saw this brother in this company I worked at give a talk and training. And after the training, I went to him. I said, yo, you was dynamic. I said, tell me a little bit about your background. And he brought up NLP. I immediately went and started reading books about NLP and researching it. He gave me some information on some people where I can go learn and take courses, and I did that. I went to New York. I signed up for courses, weekend courses, and I was in these courses with lawyers and doctors and people from other countries in these weekend trainings in the States. And I was saying, wow, all this information out here, and nobody in my community is sharing this stuff. But there's this saying, the mind's like a parachute. It only functions when it's open. I had an open mind. I think God favored me because of that. See, when your mindset is, I'm this, I'm that, I'm doing this, this my way of life, this is what I believe, and you don't come out of that, you kind of trap yourself, young man, young woman, right? You have to open yourself up to something different, to something more, and you have to open yourself up to people who can give you other options. I didn't have that. I had to create my own options. Hence the urban scholar. It's because I don't want to say I'm self-taught, but I'm self-learned. And as I still navigate, in my 40s into my 50s, right, I still struggle with not having that one mentor or that one person that could just come here and say, hey, and guess what? That's my story. If it was meant, it would have happened. So what tomorrow holds is different, but it doesn't prevent me or stop me from going forward. So this is a message to all the youth out there. Find you a mentor. I know a lot of y'all don't like to read. That's fine. You're on YouTube. Go on there. Go on Google. Read a book. Listen to it. Books are auditory. You can listen to the book. You can watch the video. I'm imploring you, I'm asking you to go out there and learn something different. Go read about stocks. Go read about self-help. I'm big on self-help. That's my bread and butter. Outside of studying my belief system, Islam, I'm big on self-help. Hence why you'll always see me in situations where I'm trying to help somebody. So mentoring is a lost thing. And a lot of people are looking for it. You got a lot of young men and women, they want to go into the entertainment business, whether it's acting or the music, and they don't even understand all what it takes to get there, and to even what it means to even be in that environment. Because some people are learning that it wasn't the best thing for them. And recently some rappers are talking about quitting rap, right? So listen, success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. I've been part of many ventures, and I've had many experiences where I've had experiences with people that look like me plotted to make sure I didn't make it. So when I say look for a mentor, you just have to open yourself up to whoever it's going to be. Don't get locked in on dealing with somebody who's in your comfort zone, we'll say that. Sometimes you have to come out of your comfort zone and be willing to do something different and go somewhere else to get what you need to get to where you got to go. And I'm going to say this, the last thing regarding mentoring. You have to have a blueprint. You have to know what you want. You have to have personal goals, right? You have to have, spiritual goals, whatever they are. I don't care what it is. Get some. Have some morals, right? You got to have employment goals, career goals. So if you want to go the employment route where you want to have a career, that's fine. Pick something that's actually going to make a difference in your life and help you survive. Not something that just is going to help you get by. But try to be passionate. Do something that's passionate, right? So my passion is what I'm doing, right? And your passion, if you do it enough and you believe in it enough, it'll make a way for you. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have some personal goals, got to have some spiritual goals, got to have some employment, career goals, right? You got to have some healthy goals too. And that's terms of how you eat and how you think. So it's mental and it's the other stuff. Like you have to be in a situation where I have a lot of friends who are into fitness, and I used to be a lot until I got injured. And I'm trying to fight my way out of that. But you got to have some fitness goals, right? That and health and, how you eat and your mental health, all that goes into the same pile. right? And the last thing, you got to have some clear and precise relationship goals. You got to know what you want from all your relationships. And I'm not just talking about girlfriend, boyfriend, marriage, any of that. I'm talking about your friends. I'm talking about your cousins. I'm talking about your aunts. I'm talking about everybody, the people you're in school with. You got to have some real specific relationship goals because you have to know what you want from every relationship. Because if you don't do that, if you're not clear in understanding these values, because these are values. Values are things you want. You have to create values. The universe won't give you anything that's based on confusion. It only gives you things that you're absolutely certain about. Okay? So that's the message today. Get you a mentor, whatever it is, a book, a video, a person, whoever. Find one, right? And have them teach you something that you are not familiar with that you need to get to the next level. And don't be afraid. Fear kills a lot of dreams, and it's just false evidence appearing real. Fear is not real. It's a here. You got to remove it from there. This is the Urban Scholar. And remember, class in session. The future is Urban Scholar.